Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the Moon Podcast. In this episode, I am going to talk about education and why it's important. Now, to me, learning is fun. I like finding out new things. Knowledge can be used for good purposes, to make the world a better place and bring us humans closer together. We solve problems, so when we leave this earth, it is in a better condition than how we found it. I believe everyone should have access to education and knowledge. So, what are the benefits of education? 1. Personal development. It enables the shaping of a person's character, opinions, and intellect. 2. Economic opportunities. It is an opportunity to get employment and financial stability. It allows people to get the skills and knowledge necessary to get a job and progress. 3. Social mobility. It breaks poverty and enables people to break out of a poor socio-economic status in order to achieve a better quality of life. Education allows people to actively participate in society. 4. Empowerment and agency. Education provides people with knowledge, information, and critical thinking skills. That way, people can make informed decisions, engage in civic activities, and it advocates for their rights. This enables people to make positive changes to their community. 5. Education is good for your health as well as mental health. Education helps individuals develop social and emotional skills, leading to better mental health and resilience. 6. Social cohesion. Education promotes tolerance in order to create a more inclusive society. Education provides opportunities for individuals from different backgrounds to interact with and learn from one another and build mutual respect. And 7. Personal fulfillment. Education enriches people's lives. It encourages curiosity, creativity, and a lifelong love of learning. It broadens perspectives and enables people to explore their interests and passions. So, in summary, education is essential for personal growth, social development, economic opportunities, and overall well-being. It empowers individuals, promotes social mobility, and contributes to the progress of societies. Education is a lifelong journey that opens doors and enables individuals to reach their full potential. But what happens when someone is deprived of education? There are negative consequences. Firstly, there would be a lack of access to opportunities, such as lacking access to higher education to go to university or to gain employment in any field. This will lead to poverty. There is social exclusion, which prevent a person from integrating in society, such as a lack of social skills. This leads to exclusion and isolation from one's peers, their community, and society at large. When someone lacks basic knowledge and skills, critical thinking, and other abilities that are necessary, they will not be able to grow and develop as a human being. They will end up becoming diminished. This will lead to vulnerability of being misled with false information and being deceived. This makes people become a target for discrimination, exploitation, and abuse. Without education or any knowledge, people will lack the means to stand up for themselves. For example, a con artist will try to fool you into buying something in order to rip you off financially for his or her own personal gain, such as convincing you that the product they are selling to you is good and the price is good, when in actual fact the product is low quality and very expensive. To avoid getting ripped off, the best thing to do is to do some research. Research what you want as thoroughly as possible in order to prepare yourself for such a conflict. A well-informed individual who knows about the products and/or services will know what to look for and, better yet, know that the salesman in question is lying or not. That way you will be able to make better decisions for yourself. A naive individual, someone who is socially inept, will fall for tricks and be a victim of fraud. The best way to overcome this is by spending as much time with people as possible and observe their behaviors. This will keep you safe from betrayals. A lack of education reduces a person's confidence and the ability to act and think differently. This can lead to a lack of empowerment, limiting individuals' ability to participate fully in decision-making processes and contribute to their communities. For example, a person who has knowledge of first aid will know what to do when they see someone who is injured. That way, they know how to deal with the injured victim and prepare them for the paramedics to come and assist. This can save lives. When a person has been weakened by a lack of education, this leads them to discrimination based on factors such as ethnicity, gender, socioeconomic status, etc. One example is, unfortunately, there are countries in this world who refuse to allow girls to go to school, thus depriving them of any development and preventing them from becoming fully informed women when they grow up. Worst still, this prevents them from contributing to society when it can actually benefit from them. I don't know about you, but I want women to be educated as much as men. This is so that they can do the jobs that women are good at doing, such as being a care worker, babysitting, caring for the elderly, customer service, personal assistance, etc. And worst of all, a lack of education can impact a person's mental health and well-being. Deprivation of education can limit access to health information, hinder the adoption of healthy behaviors, and contribute to poor health outcomes. For example, if a person doesn't know how to swim, they will drown. If a person doesn't know what sort of food is good for them and what's bad for them, their body will deteriorate. They may even get an allergic reaction that will make them sick or cause death. A lack of knowledge on such as mental health and physical health can only lead to decline. Deprivation of education can lead to a poorer socioeconomic status, thus promoting unequal treatment in society. This is why education is a basic human right. The aforementioned reasons are the very reasons why access to education is really important. This is why I believe everyone should have access to education, regardless of their ethnicity, class, or gender, or whatever. I want to be clear on this one. Education is a basic human right. According to the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, or UNESCO for short, this is a long quote, so bear with me. Quote, "Everyone has the right to education. This right includes free and compulsory elementary education, access to technical and professional education, and equal accessibility to higher education based on merit. The right to education is not only about access but also encompasses the quality of education. Education should be directed towards the full development of the human personality and the strengthening of respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms. It should promote understanding, tolerance, and friendship among all nations, racial or religious groups. Education is recognized as a fundamental right because it plays a vital role in empowering individuals, lifting them out of poverty, promoting social cohesion, fostering personal growth and development, and enabling active participation in society. It is also crucial for promoting gender equality, protecting children from exploitation, and contributing to economic growth and sustainable development. States have an obligation to protect, respect, and fulfill the right to education for all individuals without discrimination. International human rights mechanisms are in place to hold states accountable for violations or deprivations of the right to education. In summary, education is not just a privilege, but a human right that ensures equal access to knowledge, skills, and opportunities for personal and societal development." End quote. In one of my previous videos, in the journey of the broccoli, I mentioned a whole load of people with different professions we depend on. They all have one thing in common. They all needed access to education. For example, the truck driver needed to learn how to drive a truck. The accountant needed to learn how to keep a record of finances. A mechanic needs to know how a car works in order to fix it. Learning begins when we are babies. We learn by mimicking adults. Our first words are most likely an imitation of the words our parents say. Before we run, we learn to crawl on the floor. When we fall down, we learn to get up. Then we learn to walk and steady ourselves before we run. When we pay taxes, one of the most important things funded are schools. We depend on teachers to educate our children so that they can learn the basic skills they need, so that when they become adults, they can decide what to do for a living in order to contribute to society. Schools prepare children for the future. We need educated children so that they can prepare for the next generation as well as helping us with what we need. As we get older, we will be depending on them too. So a better educated generation leads to the next generation of educated and well-nurtured children and a better society. Of course, not everything has to be work-related. We need to be able to know how to build relationships. We need to be able to communicate and empathize with each other. One way to achieve this is by reading. Reading makes you a better person. It has been proven that reading increases your intelligence, it makes you happier, and it increases your memory. I think it is better for all of us if we focus on personal growth as human beings first, such as mental resilience to hardship. Education enables us to solve problems. There is also healthy competition, which will encourage self-improvement to encourage people to do better for themselves as well as for others. Teamwork is vital. I'm not sure if it is still done today, but when I went to primary school, our year group was divided into 4 teams, and that were based on mountains with a color of their own: green, blue, yellow, and red. For green, we had Matterhorn. For blue, we had Everest. The red team had Eiger, and the yellow team had Snowdon. Every week, we had achievement assemblies in which all the stars awarded that week were counted, and it was announced who is doing well that week. We weren't given any prizes, but it was an incentive to do better. When our team won, it gave us a sense of accomplishment. Whenever a team underperformed, we worked our way around it with problem solving, and we put a little more effort into our work. These teams also applied to Sports Day. Some people are actually better at sports than anything academic. This would be the day when some kids who were not so good at maths or English were incredible football players or basketball players. Sometimes the loser became the winner. The underdog became the best. We learn here. One cannot always win. It's not enough to just learn science, maths, and English. Of course, without science, we won't know how to cook. Of course, without maths, we won't know how to count. And of course, if we don't know English, we won't be able to communicate with each other. We need to learn how to manage our finances so that we can stay out of debt and spend our money more sensibly. We need to learn how to build relationships so that we can empathize and get on with everyone. We need to learn critical thinking skills so that we can mentally grow and understand other people's perspectives as well as develop our own. As I mentioned earlier, this is where reading comes in handy. Now, I have heard people say the following: "There's no point in literature. Shakespeare's useless. Who cares about history? Art is just fancy pictures. I always hated maths. I was never good at it. Why should I learn a foreign language?" Things like that. Upon hearing such comments, I struggle to contain my surprise. I feel sorry for these people because I get the impression that they were never presented with the wonders of the subjects mentioned, and unfortunately, they are missing out. In some way, they live a life that requires these things, but they probably don't realize it. Maybe the teacher they had was boring, which happens a lot, by the way. A very interesting subject can be made very unlikable because the teacher wasn't good at teaching it, or didn't care about the subject at hand in order to enjoy teaching it. Or maybe the pressure of the exams took the fun out of learning about what would have been an interesting subject to the person learning it. Or, unfortunately, there are people out there who just don't want to learn anything. Many people choose to be ignorant despite having access to knowledge. To respond to the aforementioned statements briefly, literature is how we learn to communicate with one another. Reading enables us to empathize. Shakespeare is an important historical figure because the plays he wrote are about life and death, love and hate, something we can all relate to. History is important so that we do not repeat the mistakes our ancestors made. Those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it. Art is a method of expressing emotions, something I covered in depth in another video. Maths is everywhere, whether it be the shop assistant giving you change when you go shopping, how much of an ingredient you need in order to cook your food, to be able to tell the time, etc. Learning a foreign language enables you to communicate with other people with a culture that is different to yours. It has been proven that knowing a second language reduces the chance of getting dementia and other forms of mental deterioration. Actually, in some way, They live a life that requires these things, but they probably don't realize they are using that knowledge every day. A lot of our literature is what we inherited from our ancestors. The fairy tales we read in school are most likely to be a story from the Brothers Grimm. These stories are myths that go back as far back as the Bronze Age. One example is Santa Claus. He is based on the Norse god Odin. He brings gifts to children who are well behaved. This belief still holds today. When it comes to reading, we read letters, signs, manuals, newspapers, and emails. Instead of theatre, these days, a lot of people go to the cinema to watch movies. They contain the exact same themes that William Shakespeare wrote about, the themes that we can relate to escape from reality. People we want to empathize with. Today, almost anyone can be a movie critic. History? It doesn't always have to be about remembering the names of kings and dates long gone. We have our own personal histories to learn from too. Remember that really embarrassing thing you did when you were a kid? Yeah, the thought of it makes you cringe. Or that punishment you received when you didn't do as you were told. I bet after both of those scenarios you swore to yourself you'll never do it again. That is history as well. You learn from the past. But what about art, you ask? There are now coloring books for adults, as well as for children. Coloring is a method of stress relief. You don't have to be good at drawing. You don't need to be an artist in order to know what makes a room look good and what doesn't. Nobody likes to be in a room that is too dark or too bright or have too many colors or too many bright colors that don't match. You demonstrate that you have visual understanding. What about foreign languages, you ask? English is made of several languages, French, German, Greek, and Latin, to name a few. You probably already speak them without realizing it, such as the word entrepreneur. It is French for someone who organizes and manages a business. Or to look at another French word, connoisseur, a person who has competent knowledge about a certain field in order to pass judgment, such as art or wine tasting. I think another way of putting it is someone who is an expert at something. We also have German in the English language, such as the word doppelganger, a ghostly double or counterpart of a living person. For Latin, we have such words as sinister, which means left, or more specifically, the left-hand path, which may lead to unfavorable results, such as an injury. Dexter is, well, it means right, the right-hand side, as well as used for dexterity, which means skillful. Earlier, I mentioned Greek. The word democracy is a combination of the Greek words demos, which means people, kratos, which means power. Hence, democracy means people power. Or nostalgia, another Greek combination. Nostos, meaning homecoming or return home, and algos, meaning pain or ache. It is no wonder people have a feeling of sadness and joy when they are reminded of something in their past. That's what nostalgia is. And finally, another example is pangram. Pan for all, gram for letter. So what is a pangram? It is a sentence with all the letters of the alphabet in it, such as, quote, the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog, unquote. Or, here's another one, quote, a wizard's job is to vex chumps quickly in fog, unquote. See, language can be fun. Eventually, you will see a pattern in how people speak a language that is similar to yours. Once you identify the similarities, you'll be able to communicate with people who you thought were a lot different from you. You'll also learn how people developed their language and culture. Once again, this is good for our mental development. When all this comes together, we can see for ourselves why education is important and how it plays a vital role in all of our lives. Knowledge gives us access to countless opportunities that may lead to ways we can learn about ourselves, make ourselves better, and make the whole world a better place as a whole. Everything is linked. The wonders of learning are endless. Open minds lead to open doors. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you found this enlightening. take good care of yourselves.